Hello everyone. Today I'm gonna share with you most of the important questions in Unity job interviews, which is what's the difference between update, late update, and fixed update in Unity? However, the answer of this question is not that hard and simple. It's important to know that the fixed delta time and delta time is the most important thing to answer this question. So the fixed delta time is a fixed value which has 0.02 second by default in the Unity editor. The fixed update is being called each fixed delta time, which means the fixed update is being called each 0.02 seconds. Now for the delta time, it's a small number usually, which represents the time between the current frame and the previous frame in the update function. And it has a different values depending on the CPU speed processing. So it's not a fixed value. It's changeable according to the CPU processing speed. Let's take a look on this timeline. This is the first frame. And this frame is the second. As you can see, the order of executing this function is like the following. These arrows represent the executing of these functions. When we hit the start button in our game, the first function that we called is the fixed update function. After that, the update function is going to be called, and finally the late update function. However, this order is not fixed order, because as you can see in the other frames, only the update and the fixed update are being called. But when we reach the fixed delta time, the fixed update is going to be called again, which is 0.02 second. Now, why do we use fixed update? Or where do we use it? Fixed update is used for anything that has physics. For example, if our object has a rigid body and we need this object to move and interact with other objects physically, in this case, we need to put the code of this object inside the fixed update. On the other hand, for the update function, usually we use the update function for most of our code. But there is one important thing that we can't put inside fixed update, and we have to put that code inside the update function, which is handling the player key pressing. For example, if you are waiting the player to press the enter key on the keyboard or one of the mouse buttons, then we have to put this code inside the update function. Why is that? Because if we put that code inside the fixed update, the player may hit that key while the fixed update is waiting for the time 0.02 until it gets being executed again. So in this case, we might miss the player pressing key. That's why we put that code inside the update function, because the update function is called each frame, each delta time. And in this case, we're gonna be sure that the player is gonna be press the key and we're gonna handle it and not messing it. The late update is the same as the update function, but is being called after the update function. As you can see here from the order, always the update function is being called. After that, the late update is gonna be called. So this, in general, what is the difference between these three functions and when do we use them? One more thing for the late update, we use the late update when we need to handle some data from update function and using it in the late update. For example, like let's say that we are making a platformer game and we have a player and the camera is following this player. So this camera should follow the player movement. Let's say that this player is moving using the update function. Where should we put our code for the camera to follow the player? Should we put the code with the camera in the update function? Nope. This is gonna make troubles because updating the player position takes time, and this time needs to be processing the position of the player again. So in this case, the camera is not gonna get the new position of the player correctly because the player is not gonna be changed in the next position. So in this case, we put the code of our camera inside the late update. In this case, we make sure the update function has finished executing its code and the position of the player has been moved to the next position. And now our camera is ready to follow the player according to the new position in the late update. Now, let's take an example in our game. Here I have a simple scene with a simple objects inside it. We have a sphere that's gonna be moving from the right point to the left point using some speed. This sphere has a mover script inside it. Now, inside the script, I'm using the update, fixed update, and late update. In this case, I'm using the update function to move the sphere. As you can see, I'm not using the fixed update because I'm moving the sphere using some interpolation, and my sphere has nothing to do with physics, so no need to use fixed update in this example. The most important thing here is to notice that the speed of our sphere is being multiplied by the time.delta time. Why should we multiply our speed with time.delta time? The reason is, as we said, time to delta time, or actually executing the update function, is different from a CPU to another. Some CPUs might be able to call and execute the update function faster than the others because they have a powerful speed processing. So in this case, our game is gonna be faster in some computers and on other is gonna be slower. Like this sphere is not gonna have the same speed on all the computers that this game being played on it. That's why we multiply our speed with time to delta time. However, in my PC I don't have more than one CPU, so to simulate this, I'm gonna multiply the speed dot delta time, speed dot multiplied by delta time by the frame rate. So in this condition, I'm asking the time dot frame count if the remaining of division by frame time equal to 0. In this case, I'm gonna move our sphere. This only in sake of simulating this different CPU's speed. But usually speed multiplied by time to delta time is enough to get a fixed speed. The frame speed is in our case is just simulating things. So let's go and execute our game now. If I pressed the mouse button here, our sphere is gonna go back and forth in this speed. Now if I changed the frame rate, which means like if I change the CPU speed and press again, as you can see the sphere still has the same speed, nothing changed. Why? Because we're using time dot delta time and the frame rate for simulation. If I moved the frame rate, which means if we don't have the time dot delta time and we pressed again, as you can see at frame rate 1 has a speed, while if we change it to 3, this speed is gonna be slower. And that's the effect which you're gonna have if you didn't use the time to delta time in your code. As we said, the delta time or the frame rate is only for simulating this effect in our PC. But all what you have to do is multiplying your speed with time dot delta time. Now I'm printing some messages on the console inside the FixedUpdate, LateUpdate, and the update functions to see the order of executing these functions. If we went back and looked at the messages here, as you can see, we have update, LateUpdate, update, LateUpdate, and then FixedUpdate. So the update and LateUpdate is being called a couple of times before the FixedUpdate being called. And that's because the FixedUpdate is waiting for 0.02 seconds until it gets executed again. And at the beginning, the FixedUpdate is being called once. So in this case, I say that we covered what is the difference between LateUpdate, update, and FixedUpdate functions in Unity.